to Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know that I'm excited that you join us every week. I am truly honored to have you on this journey of changing your sales game. So to start us off, of course, I have a gift for you. If you go in the show notes, you'll see my communication style assessment. That is my gift to you. You will get 2 reports. First report just spotlights your natural communication superpowers. Kind of need to know that so you understand how your message is landing with your client, prospect, or peer, whatever it might be. Flip side, your lowest score, you'll get a secondary report. I think that's the more important report for you because it will spotlight your blind spot as it relates to communication. So when we communicate with people who are 180 degrees different than us, how is your message landing there? So again, the link is in the show notes, my gift to you. Now, to set the stage for my guest and I and our topic, I have a quote by Bennett. And Bo says, in sales, a referral is the key to the door of resistance. Now, for over 35 years, I've been blessed to live off of referrals. For me, it's always been about building relationships so deeply that my ideal clients know who to look for and who to refer to me. And what I've learned is that the key to harnessing the power of magnetic marketing with LinkedIn and PR, both of those are the things I use, that will actually skyrocket your visibility, establish unshakable credibility in your niche, and ensure that magnetic attraction that will pull in your ideal audience and open the doors to you having those sales conversations. So who is my amazing guest that we're going to talk about this topic today? Her name, she is the social media and LinkedIn evangelist, truly is. Her name is Karen Yankovich. Karen guides entrepreneurs to creating wealth by combining smart business practices with simple, proven systems that develop and maintain strong customer relationship. She offers results-oriented and expert conversational marketing strategies that position her clients to bring in instant results. Karen's background includes over 20 years in fields of information technology, marketing, and customer relationships, making social media her ideal niche. So please help me welcome Karen to the show. Karen, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Connie. And we don't know each other all that well, but I feel like you're going to find, I think we're the same person because when the intro you did is so aligned with every single thing that I do. And it's exactly how I describe the work that I do. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
And here's the thing, Karen, I think we're married.
Yeah, we might be.
But that whole PR marketing, that positioning, right, to generate those leads. But then you have to have the sales conversation. But without you, I'm not having sales conversation.
Well, that's exactly it. And it's so interesting because, my focus is really LinkedIn and PR, right? And how do you use those to create a magnetic process? And when people think about LinkedIn, they don't think magnetic, right? They think spam. They think, oh my gosh, my inbox is full of people trying to pitch me. My inbox is full of, people telling me I can get you leads. It drives me crazy because what it does is it turns people off. And all you really have to do is ignore that. Just ignore that because that doesn't really do anything. I don't want the conversations that you're having, like the initial so there's a conversation between what I do and what you do, right? And that conversation can either be, here's what I do, give me your credit card, or here's what I do, who do you know? And if you're having those conversations, and that's how you get those referrals, and that's how you make that magnetic. So if you have a LinkedIn strategy that your goal is to have those, here's what I do, who do you know conversations, instead of pitch, give me your credit card, the sales follow, but it happens in this organic, magnetic, amazing, juicy way.
Yeah. And LinkedIn is a great resource. So here's the thing. I mean, you said it. I see all these people connecting with me. I would love to connect, whatever. And then you connect and bam. And it's like, so I'm an HR specialist, blah, 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 and I can help you. No, I don't need an HR specialist, right? I don't need a fractional CFO. So understand who I am before you even pitch your offer to me. That's not LinkedIn. So what we're talking about is not doing that. And there's a better way to do it to get that engagement and that conversation for people to say, oh, she's different in a good way, not, oh my God, here we go again. I'm on the spam deal, right?
Right. Connie, LinkedIn, I've got a designation on LinkedIn, a top lead gen influencer on LinkedIn. And I must get 5 to 10 messages a day saying, I can help you get leads. I was like, dude, all you got to do is take one look. Forget about all the things I wrote on my profile. You know what I mean? LinkedIn doesn't give those out easily, So clearly, like, the last thing I want is you to tell me how to get more leads, right?
Exactly.
Now, that being said, I'm always listening, right? I'm always open to things that shift and the markets that shift and things like that. So it's not like I'm completely saying my way is the only way. However, my way isn't the right way. Cold people. My way is never going to be pitch as many cold people as you can find and hope that you can get a call or two out of it.
It goes back to that whole sleazy approach, and we have to differentiate ourselves from that. And I think that raises the bar for all of our peers, or truly differentiates us right out of the gate. So let's talk about LinkedIn for another minute, though. What are some insights on so people listening, how can they create these magnetic LinkedIn profiles that it's not their resume, right? Because that's not impressive.
Well, I like to say, like, the resume is all about who you used to be. Your LinkedIn profile should be positioning for you for the person you're stepping into, kind of dress for the job you want, right? Like, so you want to create a LinkedIn profile that has people going, wow, I need to be a part of this person's life. I want this person in my network. And before we even get to that, and I don't have the statistic on this, but LinkedIn claims that it is the #1 content hub on the internet. With all the pulse and all the articles and all the stuff, right? So think about that for a second. There's a strong SEO. We're going to call it SEO. It's not really SEO, but a strong SEO strategy that you want to have, a keyword strategy that you want to have before you even think about what people are actually reading and what you're saying, right? You want to think about, like, I'll use an easy example. Like, say you're a real estate agent. If somebody goes on to LinkedIn and types in real estate agent, they're going to come up from all over the country. But if you say, I'm a real estate agent in Ridgewood, New Jersey, right? Now, when somebody goes for Ridgewood real estate agent, you're going to come up. So before you even start your profile to get your magnet juices going, you want to think about keywords. What are people searching for on LinkedIn, which is different than on Google? In some ways, not always, but you need to remember that there's a difference, right? People aren't searching LinkedIn for vitamin D, but they might be looking for a vitamin D distributor. Right. So you want to think about that little nuanced difference, and then have a strong keyword strategy so that your profile is LinkedIn is sending your profile to people that you don't even know. Right. Which is the first amazing thing. And LinkedIn continues to do better at that game. It gives us things like, it gives us opportunities to showcase our services. It gives us opportunities. And it says, when it gives us these new features, we want to know how to send the right people to you. So tell us. So tell them, right? So you've got to really be clear on the exact right person. But then that brings me to kind of my next thing is, you really want to be clear on that exact right person. If you're on LinkedIn and you're all things to all people, you're never going to kind of get anywhere, right? But if you are I'll stick with the real estate agent example. If you're a real estate agent and you're just like all the other real estate agents, you got a lot of competition. But if you are the real estate agent in your town that is the sage waving, Reiki symbol painting, St. Joseph buried upside down and backwards on your front lawn kind of real estate agent, tell me about that on LinkedIn, because there are people that are going to go, oh, that's my person, right? Like, and it doesn't mean are there people that you're going to repel? Maybe, but you're going to attract more people than you repel, because nobody's doing this. Everybody thinks they need to look like everybody else. So you want to get really clear on who your absolute perfect client is, and then just dive straight in for that one client, because once you know how to get it once, you know how to get it over and over and over. From there, then you think about, having a strong about section and having a header image, a headline that is not just, I'm a CEO, right? That tells people like who you are, who you help, how you help them. So your profile is a big piece of that, of getting that magnet going. And it's important because, if you let's say you go to a networking event, right? And you walk up to somebody, and you don't walk up to somebody and you say, hey, I'm Karen, and let me tell you all the great things about me, right? So you can't do that. So, but what you can do the next day is connect them on LinkedIn. And then they're going to go like, whoa, wait a minute, I really need to know her better, right? Like, so your LinkedIn profile done properly does so much of the sales heavy lifting for you. Right? Absolutely. So much of the sales heavy lifting for you, so that by the time they get on the phone with you or get on wherever that sales conversation is happening, they already feel like they're ready to go. They just need to figure out what's the right program or process or whatever, because you don't have to do all of the explaining of everything you are, who you are, and what you do. Your LinkedIn profile's done that. There's no other place on the internet that can happen.
Yeah. And it's funny because, you see it all the time. I see it all the time in sales. We vomit on our prospect or client. We have to tell them everything. It's repulsive, and or you start vomiting your products and services and how great they are. Meanwhile, whether the person needs it or not, like if I'm a real estate and I'm like, so I'm going to sell you the next house. Meanwhile, right, I live with my mom,
right,
who's 95. We ain't moving. What? But I could be a good referral source. So again, we vomit information instead of connecting. The other thing I just want to share that you said, so LinkedIn, I think, is a vital tool. Again, my people are banks and credit unions across the country. LinkedIn is where your clients are playing, right? From a banker's perspective, typically. So what you want to do, right, is before the networking event, get the list of here's a tip for everybody, get a list of everybody. And then I could proactively reach out and say, Karen, oh my gosh, I see you're going to the same event. You have been on my list to meet. I see what you're doing in the marketplace. Let's make sure we connect. My picture is a tip, right? Because the LinkedIn, you have your picture or something like that. Now, when we come, we see each other. We know what each other looks like.
You know how rare that is? Do you know how rare that is? It's a huge tip, Connie. And I will tell you, I do a lot of speaking all over the country, and I always attend with a stack of Dunkin' Donuts gift cards, because I will give a Dunkin'. Here's a tip: if you're ever seeing me speak, I give a Dunkin' Donuts gift card to anybody in that audience that connected with me ahead of time on LinkedIn. Because typically I'm talking about LinkedIn, right? Can I tell you, I am not going to go broke giving out Dunkin' Donut gift cards. It almost never happens. But I kind of use it as it's like a celebration when I can give one out. Absolutely. Because I'm like, you are the only person that connected with me ahead of time. And think about this, right? If you're going to an event or a speaker or whatever, it will make you stand out from that crowd. Isn't that what you want?
I got a story, just exactly that. So I was speaking on an event here in Jersey. You're a Jersey girl too. It was here in Jersey, a couple hundred people.
Can you guys tell, by the way, that both Jersey girls?
Can you tell it's the Jersey show today, right, Karen? It's the Jersey show. Anyway, so I was speaking at this event, a couple hundred people. This young man connects with me, said, oh my gosh, I see you're the speaker. I'm new to sales, and I am so looking forward to hearing this presentation. I could use all the help I could get, or something really cute, right? And I hope I get the opportunity to introduce myself. Well, I'm old, Karen. So this young man walks in, but his picture was a good picture on LinkedIn. It actually looked like him. So that's another tip. Make sure the picture looks like you. And so I see him across the room and I wave, and he walks over to me. He must have been pooping his pants, this poor kid, right? Young man, 20 something years old. And I wave and I get like, come here. So meet up with him. And he said, hi. And I said, hi, I know you, but why do I know you? And I just wanted to say hello. And he goes, you're freaking me out. He goes, I just connected with you on LinkedIn. He said, I can't believe there's a couple hundred people, right? He goes, I can't believe I recognize you. I go, well, clearly you stood out. I said, I didn't remember where I met you, but I knew you. And I wanted to say hello. And then I remembered who he was. He was new to sales. I said, here, let me introduce you to a few people. I started introducing people.
Yes.
He deserved that effort on my part.
Yes.
Be proactive. It's what I
Because we want to do this. We want to do this. Most people, I'm sure if you're listening, you're thinking this too. Like, if I feel like you want to go into your sales experience with a collaborative mindset, with a relationship-based mindset,
100%.
Because that's how you make this more magnetic. That's how you get more referrals, blah, 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 blah. So why wouldn't you do that then, right? Why wouldn't you do that then? Because, think about this. Think about the last conference that you went to, even if it was a virtual conference, maybe it's even like a summit, right? Where there's, all these speakers and it's all virtual. If you are the one that connects with the speakers, that you don't need to connect with everyone, because I don't want you to, it needs to be authentic. And frankly, the less people you connect with, the deeper you can dive with them.
Absolutely.
So I'm not looking for you to just connect with 1 million. So if there's 20 speakers, connect with 5 of them. Make sure you see their presentation. Make sure that when you're watching that presentation, you're either taking screenshots or pictures of them if it's live, and share that on your social media and tag that speaker. And this is how you build those relationships, right?
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, this is how you now build relationships with typically the most influential people in the room.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you're doing it, but again, the goal then is not to do this times everyone. And then, here's this is all such easy stuff and nobody does it. How about if you write them a LinkedIn recommendation, right? I saw Connie speak at this event and I loved this, and this. Like you are like, it does not happen that often.
No, it
right.
doesn't.
So you will remember this. You will remember them. And it is, it is wherever it goes. Like I'm a firm believer that when you focus on relationships like this, the sales follow. So
Absolutely.
Can I give you an exact blueprint as to how that would happen? I cannot.
No.
But I can tell you that it will happen.
Here's the thing though. These are habits that we should be doing and we're talking 5 minutes a day when you really boil it down, right? So these are habits that you should be thinking about and including, but it starts with the profile. Now, my next question, another big thing is we want to curate and create good content because that creates that thought leadership that we stand out from all the other leaders out there, right? So what is the type of content that you found, because this is your expertise, to be effective on LinkedIn for engaging that audience that is our ideal client, right? Because that's who we're kind of targeting.
So I'm going to say this. I'm going to qualify that. I'm going to qualify your question with a little bit of a side rail answer and say, my first priority is who's on my calendar, not who's engaged with my content. So as much as I think the content's important, I think that that comes after that, but we'll address it now and then we can get into who's on your calendar, right? How do you do that? But because you're right, you can't start to connect with people and then kind of ghost them, right? You don't want your LinkedIn profile to look like a ghost town. You want people to see that you're engaging. And again, that content that brings people to your profile with those keywords and they see your name in the feed. You always want to have your name in the feed. But the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is you don't have to post as many times as you have to post on other platforms. If you for example, if you post more than once a day, you're actually impacting the ability for your first post to even be seen by your network. So now I just will say this, the minute I start talking about the algorithm, they change it. So if somebody's listening to this and say, well, I read recently that you have to wait 12 hours. That may be true too, right? But the energy of this question is less is more on LinkedIn. So, at once a day is plenty. You can schedule it right in the platform. Right. So you can do that ahead of time. I will say that because I teach this stuff, I'm a little bit of a LinkedIn purist. I'm not the LinkedIn police. I don't care what you do, but I don't let anybody log into my profile but me. And that's what I teach, because I feel like I don't want somebody saying I did what Karen Yankovich said and my profile got shut down. Right. So I teach like LinkedIn purist. Nobody logs into your profile but you. There are third-party tools that can be scheduled, right? But honestly, if your assistant or your VA gives you, a Google Doc full of content and says, "Hey, can you schedule these out on LinkedIn?" It takes 5 minutes. And to me, it's more important that for me, I don't let anybody log in. Now, if you're in the same room, it's less important. But if you have if you're in New Jersey and your assistant is in California, LinkedIn knows this. LinkedIn can see this, that people are logging into your profile. Where legitimately you can't be the same person, right? So less is more. Just mix it up and see what works best for you, right? Sometimes polls work really well. I'm not a huge fan of those LinkedIn pods where people, like you have a pod and everybody has to comment on each other's posts, because I just think it's fake. And I also think LinkedIn's algorithm picks that up. If all the same people are posting on are commenting on all of your posts. So I'm not a real fan about that. I don't worry too much about how many people do it. I'm more concerned about, is it continually in the feed? Am I feeding the algorithm with keywords? And if somebody comes to my profile and they get to see my activity, can they see that I'm active and read the kinds of things I'm posting about? And I will say this too, more importantly, even than that, like if you said to me, Karen, I have 10 minutes a week. Like I got 10 minutes a week. That's all I'm going to give you. I would say, all right, post twice a week. And that'll take you 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. And then the other 7 minutes, engage on other people's content.
Yes.
That is much more valuable to you than even your own post, because now you're getting your beautifully written profile in front of their audience, right? And I have talk about like the beautiful magnetic sales process. I have 100% gotten clients that did not know who I was at 10 o'clock in the morning, saw me engaged with somebody's content, went to my profile to check me out, saw it was easily to get on my calendar, got on my calendar for that same day and enrolled in my high ticket program. Didn't know who I was at 10 o'clock, gave me their credit card for my high ticket program at 4 o'clock. So it does happen that way if you do that properly. I don't know that it's ever happened from my content, but it has happened from me engaging on other people's content.
Yeah, it's your voice. It's the vibe of who you are. And, I tell people like with the business development because I am not a marketing expert or a PR expert at all, but I say when you fill out that profile, it's the essence of who you are. Don't put your resume. I deal with banks. I'm a banker and I help people with their short and long-term financial goals. Okay, you're a banker. I kind of get that just from you saying you're a banker. But who is the essence of you? And I could give you a real tangible example. One young lady, I think she's up in New Hampshire. And so her profile, she wrote her value statement, right? It wasn't a profile for LinkedIn, but it was the value statement. And she put her family owns a farm. So she put from pitchfork to pen. And I thought, yes, that makes you memorable.
Awesome.
Isn't that so cool? So they're the kind of things. Who are you? So that it was going back what you said with the realtor.
Yeah.
That, I'm woo and I stage my house. And if that's who you are, then that's who you want to attract. So
by the way, I don't think I've gotten a single realtor to take me up on that. And I've been talking about that for 10 years. Seriously? Like they won't do it. They're so afraid. We're so afraid to stand out from the crowd. But, I just want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I know that a lot of people that are listening that are in the banking industry, some of you have licenses and your licenses you have to pass compliance. Yeah. I get that. And I get that there's things you can and can't say. Yeah. So, we know how to deal with all of that stuff. It doesn't mean you can't do this. You just have to be careful about how you do it.
That's exactly
it still can be done. But, an example that I use, and probably the people with the licenses can't say this, but I will say it anyway, just to give you an example, like you can be a banker and you can say, we're great. We give out great loans. We got good stuff here. Right. Or you can be the loan officer at the bank that has great products and great loans and great rates and great things that helps women over 50 create enough wealth to retire at 60.
Yep.
Right. Like you're the same person. It doesn't mean you can't help the 40-year-olds. Right. But when you choose a lane and then speak to that lane, listen, I get pitched, especially from bankers and money people all the freaking time. If you say that, I'm going to go, whoa, that's my person. Right. As opposed to you standing out, if the world we live in, and I think the pandemic had a lot to do with this, the world got so noisy when the virtual world got so noisy when we couldn't be in person that I think we're all just kind of over it. Yeah. If you're not standing out right now, you're completely invisible. Yeah. So if you want to be using, if you're listening to this and you're going, I don't know, 2024, I don't know where to get clients from. I'm telling you, this is how you have to stand out from the crowd. You have to find a way to do that.
Yeah. In your experience, what are some of the key elements of building that strong personal brand on LinkedIn? Like the example with Sage, if I'm a realtor. But what are some of the key elements that people can, like a little strategy or steps that they could follow, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to really the first thing I do when I work with people is really get clear on what is the next big, fat, juicy contract you want to get look like, right? Because you need to stay laser focused on that. Right. Because when you say laser focused on that, then everything kind of aligns to make that happen. So thinking about that and then kind of taking a step out and saying, all right, if I was that person that's going to sign that contract or whatever that is, maybe you want a book deal, right? It doesn't have to be a client always when I say contract, right? Maybe you want a speaking engagement. So thinking about what they want. And then you need to think about, well, what is it that I do that they're going to want? And if I was them and looking at my profile, are they going to go like, whoa, get this person on my calendar, right? So that's what you really want to think about. You want to think about how you can, again, stand out from the crowd. That's one of the reasons why we infuse PR into the work that we do. Yeah. Can we get into that a little bit? Because I think that's a big part of this. My next
question. Yeah. Let's talk about the PR.
Yeah. Because that, a lot of the people I work with are in some kind of transition. Maybe they're leaving corporate and they're going out on their own as a consultant, or maybe they're just leveling up their income, right? But, they're typically coming to their next chapter with tons of expertise, but a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? I don't know. I've never really done this. I've never had that title on my card before, whatever. And they also maybe don't have a lot of references yet for exactly what they're doing right now, right? I don't worry about all that. So this is why one of the things we do is we say, okay, when you're doing this and you've identified what that big contract looks like you want to get, now you want to think about, what are those people listening to or reading or watching? And how do you get seen how do you get interviewed on those places? And you have a podcast, Connie. I have a podcast. I get so many pitches every day for my podcast. And I very rarely, I don't use a lot of them. Number one, because people don't know how to pitch, but also because I don't really know them. But if you say to me, if you listen to my show and you post and say, oh my gosh, I was just listening to, Good Girls Get Rich with Karen Yankovich. She talked about this, this, and this. I never thought about that. I always did this. Thanks, Karen, for sharing that episode with me and tagging me in it. Not just sharing it, but tagging me in it and connecting with me on LinkedIn. Same kind of thing as the speaker that's going to remember who you are. Now I know who you are. Right. And now I might say to you, again, you never know. I might say to you, wow, that's really interesting perspective on that. Let's have that conversation on my show. Right. That's a much better way, if you don't know me, of getting a chance of getting interviewed on our show than just pitching cold. Right. So taking that same concept throughout all realms of PR, you would think all I work with is realtors. I barely work with realtors, but I have a realtor client and that's not true. I have worked with some realtors, but I have a realtor client who a couple of years ago started out with a great profile, by the way, like a great LinkedIn profile. And there was an article written by NBC News that he shared the article, but connected with the person that wrote the article, like just some journalist that writes for NBC, and shared it, tagged her, and then connected with her and said, hey, loved your article. I'm sharing it everywhere. I'm tagging you. You're probably seeing yourself tagged all over the place. Thanks for this point of view, because nobody talks about this the way you're talking about it. So of course, you have a podcast. Do you wake up every morning with look at like saying, oh, look how many people tagged me in about my articles and my shows, right? It doesn't happen. So of course, the journalist remembered it. And a week later, reached out to that realtor and said, hey, I'm writing another article. Can I ask you a few questions? Of course, he said yes. Turned into a full page article on NBCnews.com, seen by 65 million people, which, let's get real, is probably not the biggest benefit of it. The biggest benefit is that he's the only realtor in his town now that can say, as seen on NBC, talk about your personal brand, right? As seen on NBC, when he goes on listing appointments and they're talking about pricing the house, he can drop that baby on the counter and say, well, when I was NBC News' housing price specialist, right? So none of his other competition can do that.
That's right.
So that's part of that. That's part of your brand. Yeah. And as much as we'd like to think that someday we're going to be sitting on our couch and drinking our tea at the Jersey Shore and our orange crushes at the Jersey Shore, and Oprah's going to knock on our door, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
We have to go after this.
That's right.
We have to go after these opportunities. So part of when I'm working with people and saying, who are the people you want to bring into your network? It's not just about who are your ideal clients or your ideal partners. It's also do some research, come up with 10 local journalists, 10 regional journalists, and 10 national journalists, maybe even 10 international journalists that you want to be connected to, and then do it because you're positioned as if you're worthy of it, right? Because Here's the thing, when you start sharing those articles, media begets media, right? Like other people will see that you've been interviewed, and people want credible people. So especially if they can hear the podcast you were interviewed on or see the article you were quoted in, there's so much division in this world that we're all a little nervous about who we're interviewing, right? Like what's going to come out on the other side, right? Yeah. So this way it gives them a way to kind of, vet you, and it just starts to grow. And that's where your personal brand starts to stand out from everybody else as well.
Yeah. And that's it. You got to find the differentiator. It's funny. I'll share a really quick story. And then I have one more question. We'll be out of time. But I had a woman and she had listened to my show and she wrote just a lovely email. And she said, here's my topic. I think I'm in line with your listeners. If I'm wrong, certainly delete the email. It was just the way she had positioned it was real genuine and human. And I responded and I said, my show is really popular and I'm booked way out. So I have certain criteria that I need for you to be able to come on the show. And I outlined it for her. She immediately responded. She goes, oh, I don't meet the criteria. My age, just pivoted. Exactly what you said. I'm starting this new venture and I'm trying to get the word out. And I just said, I was just attracted to your show and your vibe and the whole thing. But you know what? I'll grow my list and I'll grow my following. And then would it be okay to circle back? She was so genuine and honest. I responded and I said, you're in. I will absolutely, I said, I love your honesty, your integrity. I love the vibe of your emails. I said, I would love to support you and help you grow your audience. So yes, here's my calendar. Here's all the information. She wrote back, she goes, I'm in tears that you accept. And I thought, wow, like to me, it was no big deal. Right. But here, this woman was honest. How do you not support that, Karen? Right.
Right.
I love that authenticity.
Right. Because here's the thing too, especially women, we're not, we don't think about, like, maybe we don't, I'm just going to use the word. We don't always think we're worthy of of this publicity, right? So when you start getting interviewed and when you start getting quoted in newspapers and magazines, so much changes. You're right. It's truly an identity shift, which is a whole separate conversation, because we have to recognize that. How do we know how to be this person that all of a sudden is newsworthy, right? So but it's so exciting and it's so fun. And it's something that we must do, because again, going back to, if you don't stand out, you're invisible. I want there to be more wealthy women in the world, period, the end. And I think that the way we do that is by taking control of our personal brands and going after what we want, and being unapologetic about it, and standing out from the crowd. Absolutely. And it starts with this brand and being comfortable with building relationships with the most influential people in your industry, as if you're peers with them. And that all happens on LinkedIn. Absolutely.
And I'll just share one more quick story. And then I do have one more question for you. But I had James Clear on my show after he wrote Atomic Habits. And so he had all this, you had to fill out a form, and so I thought, I'm going to fill out the form, but you needed like 100,000 downloads a day. I mean, it was some ridiculous amount. So I thought, well, I don't qualify. So right within the form, I just wrote, I read the book. This is my biggest takeaways. It's life-changing. I have it on my table by my chair. It's like a Bible now to me, because your ideas were so easy, right, to implement. And I said, but I don't nearly meet the requirements, but I figured I'd throw my hat in the ring and see if you'd like to come on my show. I think you'd be just a great guest, and I would be truly honored to have you. Within 20 minutes, he responded and said, thank you for that honest email and your honesty within. And he said, and that you read the book and all of these beautiful takeaways. How can I not say yes? So don't be afraid to ask because you don't feel you meet criteria. Because and here's the other thing too, right? He was a lovely man. I'm a lovely person. You're a lovely person. So sometimes by reaching out and saying, hey, this is what I can do for you, you've made a good friend. You don't know how they're going to be able to help you down the road. That's not why I do what I do, Karen. That's not what I'm saying.
Yes.
But by being real, I think we're not authentic. It's like everything is fake news out there. So if you can show up authentic, I think that's part of the game that we're talking about on LinkedIn. Here was my last question.
Well, wait, 2 seconds before that. I wanted to say one other thing. When James Clear got that email from you, I'm going to guess the first thing he did was throw your name in a Google search. He saw your LinkedIn profile. He might have saw the media you've done. He saw you were worthy of his time. You have control of that. You can control your destiny. If he did that and your LinkedIn profile had dust bunnies on it and he could find nothing about you, he probably wouldn't have responded that way. Again, because we need to be careful about who we're interviewing, right? So you did what you needed to do to look worthy of his time before he, and so to make it really easy for him to come back and say, yes, I'm in, let's do it.
Make it easy for the person to say yes. And that's really what this is about. My last question, and then I'm going to give your information for people to reach out to you. The podcast name again, so everybody could tune in.
Good Girls Get Rich.
Girls Get Rich.
Good Girls Get Rich.
Boys too, but girls get rich.
I don't care what your body parts are, how you identify. I just think women, and I'm not excluding men, I think women need to feel more included. And that's really why I focus on women, and by the way, that's my lane, right? Probably half of my private clients are men. It doesn't mean I don't work with men. Yeah. It just means that I want women to see this and go, wow, I need to feel more included in this. And they do, and I can help them. I have plenty of men that I help as well.
Yeah, I love it. Isn't that funny? Me too. But it's nice to play with the girls too, right? So I love it. So here's the deal. If you have questions, please email Karen directly. Her email is Karen@KarenYankovich.com. I will put that in the show notes. Website, KarenYankovich.com. Check it out. Tons of resources there. And her gift is a LinkedIn quiz that everyone listening should be taking this quiz. Especially if your clients are on LinkedIn, definitely take this quiz. It'll give you some insight. You want to share quickly what you get?
Well, it's so funny when you described your assessment. This is it's similar but different. Yeah. It's a little bit the step before it, right? Because what I'm doing all this marketing about LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. And then I was in this group one time that I was a participant in the group, and everybody in the group, every single one of them was an ideal client for me. And every single one of them said, I don't even know where to get started on LinkedIn. I was like, ooh, light bulb moment, right? I need to help people that don't even know how to get started on LinkedIn. So that's when we created this assessment. So you can either go to linkedinquiz.com or KarenYankovich.com/quiz. And I say that because sometimes the tech around LinkedInquiz.com doesn't always get you where you need to be.
Okay, cool.
It always works for me, which is why I can't troubleshoot it. But I've had a few people tell me that. So either way, it's hard to miss it. It's also all over my LinkedIn profile. But But similar to you, we've got a couple things that you can get started with based on what we assess your strengths and weaknesses are. And then a follow-up email with, and because these are your strengths, we think these are some things you may want to watch out for. You know what I mean? You may want to watch out for, you may find yourself tendency to do too much of this or too much of that. So keep an eye on that. But then, because I am so committed to helping people kind of step into that new identity that we talked about, we also have a little bit of right brain stuff in there. We actually give them a morning mindset visualization that they can kind of wake up in the morning, depending on their their type assessment, that they can just kind of like to set the stage for their mindset as they step into their marketing for the day. So
I love it. I love it.
It was a lot of fun to put together. And I think it sounds like a great compliment to your assessment.
Yeah, truly. So 2 homework assignments, kids. Take the assessments, right? And here's the thing, right? And I always end the show with this, Karen. Information's a beautiful thing, but if we do nothing with that information, it's not helping us, right? It was a nice read. That was a nice listen. But if we put that information into action, that's where we create reaction. And that's when magic really does happen. So we have to do something differently. So that's the idea here, guys. So now you have 2 quick, easy call to actions. Take the assessments, whether it's mine and or Karen's or both, which take both, obviously. I think it will help you figure out what is that next baby step. And that's all we'd want to look for, is that baby step, because that creates the trajectory of change. So Karen, as always, great to hang out with you. Thank you so much for all of this great insight on how to use LinkedIn, both for marketing and that public relation piece, that PR piece, that we can differentiate ourselves from the peers and our competition out in the marketplace. It's all about the differentiation, that you're better than, and then you fill in the blank, whatever industry you're in. So thank you so much for being on, my friend.
Oh, it was great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, my Jersey girl. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are on changing your sales game. I truly hope that my guests and I provide the insights, steps, ideas, strategies, thought-provoking next steps for you to change ultimately your game in business. So again, thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Changing the Sales Game with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly am honored to have you on this journey of changing your sales game and being a trusted advisor for you. And again, my guests coming on and sharing their expertise with you. I love you all. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in.